Hello, my name is Ben Muldrow of Arnett Muldrow and Associates, and I'm proud to talk to you today a little bit about agritourism branding and the role that branding can play in growing your business and increasing your exposure. So we'll start with a little bit about myself. My name is Ben Muldrow. I own an urban planning firm. We're based out of Greenville, South Carolina, and I lead up our Mid-Atlantic office in Milford, Delaware. Over the past 15 years, I've had the privilege of working with over 450 communities in 35 states. I'm a huge supporter of the Main Street program, and in fact, the Mississippi Main Street program has introduced me to over 50 communities throughout the state of Mississippi. I've also had the privilege of branding more communities than anybody else in the world. This has been an extremely unique opportunity for me to see attractions and amenities throughout this country that bring people in and engage them with a place. And in addition to that, several years ago, I had an opportunity to develop the new brand for the Mississippi Ag Museum. So being able to talk to you all today is a huge opportunity, and I'm really excited about seeing the things that are happening in Mississippi. Now, before we get too far into the conversation, I think it's important for us to talk about the idea of why do we brand. And one of the ways I always like to illustrate this is taking the example of celebrating a child's birthday. So in the 1920s, you would have gone to the local general store. You would have spent about 50 cents to buy flour, eggs, and sugar. You would have gone home and made the birthday cake. Now fast forward to the 1940s, and you would go to that same store, but now you'd end up spending about $2, and you'd buy a box mix. Now fast forward to the 80s, you're going to go to a local chain grocery store, spend about $12, and buy a sheet cake. And now we're spending $1,200 on inflatable castles. What this really illustrates for us is the transition from a raw material economy into a product economy, then a service economy, and now we're lodged firmly in the experience economy. And what that means is that consumers yearn to have an experience, to connect with brands, to feel like they have some sort of origin story. And that is really what we want to focus in on today. We want to be able to talk about the role that branding can play in helping you to build something that we call brand equity. Brand equity is the idea that your business brand carries with it inherent value. That brand equity might motivate someone to drive a little farther or spend a little bit more to be connected with an experience or an identity that they really connect with and like. And to do that, we typically talk about a very simple branding toolbox. In this branding toolbox, we like to illustrate 4 different elements: fonts, color palette, graphics, and message. And we'll go through those 4 here today. First of all, we start off a little bit talking about fonts. Fonts are the place that so many people make their first mistake. They like to go out and they like to pick the fanciest, prettiest typeface. But one of the most effective things that we can do is we can simply create something that is simple, easy to read, and easy to deposit personality into. Here you see 9 or 10 national and global brands. Every single one of these brands and word marks was created with the typeface Helvetica. It was all done with the same technology that any of us could have created with our own home computers in less than 30 seconds. But these brands carry with them tremendous value. And there's also a very broad spectrum of identities. Technology like Panasonic, outdoor ruggedness like Jeep, and just always there utility like Scotch. And then you even look at these fashion brands, dramatically different brands, American Apparel and Sears. So being able to create something that is content neutral and has the ability to grow and expand to meet your needs is a hugely important strategy that we often employ. Now, as I do this, I also have the opportunity to teach against the 10 forbidden fonts. These 10 fonts that you see on the screen now: Comic Sans, Algeria, Brush Script, Papyrus, Curls, Copperplate, Hobo, Monotype, Corsiva, Giddy Up, and Bradley. These are the typefaces that are essentially loaded on everybody's computer, and these are the go-to solutions when somebody wants to look different. And by doing that, what they do is they make themselves look the same. You need to go out and you need to find something that truly fits the kind of identity that you want to convey. Now from there, we want to talk a little bit about colors. Colors can be hugely connecting tools, and the continuity of colors can create a system that really makes marketing feel connected. I think colleges and universities do a great job at this, and we'll talk about that more in a second. But one of the big things that we really want to talk about is we want to make sure to not get too worked up over color confusion. There are these things called Pantone colors and CMYK and RGB. The big thing that you really want to do is make sure that you select what your colors are and use those consistently. You know, we always give the example when we're talking about colleges and universities, how colleges have academic logos and athletic logos. Take Mississippi State, for example. You know, they've got an academic logo, and then they have a whole set of athletic logos, but they share the same color. And that color continuity allows for a lot of expansion while still connecting together the assets that are driving connection with the overall brand. From there, we move into graphics. And when you work in the world of agritourism, you will find that there are a lot of graphics that are kind of go-to answers. Everybody loves a good pitchfork and a good shovel. Everybody loves their tractors and work trucks and barns. But there's also some really cool things going on. Like this is a recent rebrand from Community Farm Alliance. Being able to embrace the clean, fresh, contemporary look helps to create an inviting atmosphere for people who might not have ever thought that agritourism was something that might draw them in, something that might be engaging to them. Now, on a side note, one of the big things that I always like to share with folks is the idea of allowing the logo to tell your story. I really like it when logos are springboards for conversation. I'm sure most of you have seen this FedEx logo before, but one of the things you might not have seen is the hidden symbol. If you look right here in between the E and the X, this typeface was perfectly designed to include the image of an arrow moving forward. Now, as you can see here, they could have easily highlighted that arrow, but they chose not to. They liked the fact that it was subtle, that it was built in, and that when someone discovered it for themselves, they would take that and tell others. And over the past 15 years, I've told thousands of people about that simple element. So don't feel like everything about your logo has to be completely self-explanatory. And in fact, if it helps to start a conversation, then it's a tool that really helps you to talk about your brand. And finally, we talk about the idea of message. Message is really getting your arms wrapped around your tone, the way that you communicate with folks. Now, part of that is graphically, part of it is just in the words that you use, but this is kind of an interesting example. If you look on the screen, you will see every single one of these publications comes from the exact same community, but it all looks completely different. To a consumer, they would have no way in the world of knowing that this is one place. So as you think about all the different ways that you market, as you market yourself as a destination, as you market yourself as an event venue, as you market your festivals and your events that you throw, make sure that you create a design continuity so that all of your efforts can start to build that brand equity. And to maybe help illustrate that, we'll talk a little bit more about brand equity. And here we see that familiar logo, no words. You can simply see that symbol and you automatically, you infer quality. You can determine that something is going to be well built. You might even be able to smell the leather. So here, if we look at this example of a brand new Mercedes sports utility vehicle, many times I ask folks, without describing any of the attributes of this vehicle, for them to tell me how much they think this car might cost. Many times the price range is somewhere between, say, $48,000 and $60,000. But then I ask them, how much do you think this car is worth when you find out that it's actually a Kia? And what this really illustrates for us is brand does carry value. It carries meaning. When you roll up to a stoplight and you're driving a Mercedes, people make assumptions about you. When you roll up in your Kia, they make assumptions as well. Now, how does this relate to farms? How does this relate to agritourism? I've got a couple examples that I want to share with you today that I think are pretty good examples of businesses doing it right. The first one that I'd like to talk about is Pfeiffer Orchards in Camden, Delaware. As you can see, Pfeiffer's been around since 1919. It's now run by a set of brothers that are third-generation owners of this farm. They do all kinds of phenomenal events. They do a great maize run every year. They, of course, do strawberries and berries, and they just grow all kinds of things that draw people from around the region in. And they've also been leading the way in the region with CSAs, and they've branded something as the Delmarva box, which is kind of an interesting dynamic because it allows them through their branding to create a CSA that is, although targeted at localism, still relevant to residents of 3 different states: Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, all along the Delmarva Peninsula. They do a great job of putting on events, putting on festivals, and creating branded materials that help to draw people in. This is a poster from the 2014 Strawberry Festival. In fact, this past weekend was the Strawberry Festival for 2016, and they literally get thousands and thousands of folks to come out to the farm. They even go through and they sell passes, gold and silver passes, allowing people to come do the U-Picks and do the farm visits at discounted or free rates. But I wanted to kind of carry you through their whole marketing system. So first of all, when you Google Pfeiffer Orchards, they're obviously going to show up as a first result, but this is what you see. Eat local, taste fresh. Like, they come right out with their brand message. This idea of eating local and tasting the competitive advantage of freshness. Now, if you take a look at their Facebook page, here you can see they've got great product-oriented imagery as their profile, as their cover photo. They've got their brand in their profile pic. And I just want to highlight here, if you take a look at this page for a second, they've had almost 21,000 people like their page. And they've had almost 17,000 people check in at their location. They've got their hours put into into Facebook so that folks can know whether or not they're open, and they're constantly posting information and photos from the events that they put on. They've got an active presence on Yelp, including pretty positive reviews, and again featuring their hours and photos. They're also integrated into TripAdvisor, which again, you can see they've had about, 37 reviews, most of those all excellent, and even showing up on websites like Local Harvest. So you start to see they've got a robust web presence, they've got their stock information and their stock photos, but it's showing up in many, many different places. But if you go to their actual website, this is what you'll see. You can see, first of all, they have their Pfeiffer Orchards oval in the top right. They have the more stylized version, Pfeiffer Orchards, established 1919. This was what they called their anniversary logo, and that anniversary logo really made its way onto a lot of merchandise. And then you can see another stylized logo that they created in the center, from our lands to your hands. This direct logo, as they call it, really, really great tool to help illustrate and talk about this value proposition to the consumer. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk you through a good bit of their site. So they have a country store on their location. This store is open 9 to 6 Monday through Saturdays. And this is where you can buy mums, pumpkins, strawberries, anything you think of it, they sell it there. Hand-dipped ice cream. They've got this really, really great collection of things. But a couple years ago, they really jumped out on a limb and they decided to open a second location. They call this the Farm Market Cafe. And they set it up down in Dewey Beach, about 45 minutes from their farm, in the center of the beach resort traffic. And this Farm Market Cafe has done phenomenally well for them. Dewey Beach, as well as Rehoboth Beach right next door, serve the Washington, D.C. market. And they have been able to tap into that market with their brand identity. And they have supplied fresh produce to all of those vacationers. And it really has been good for the brand and good for the business. Now, in addition to that, they make their way to farmers markets throughout the region and set up in 3 different farmers markets throughout, 2 in Lewis and 1 in Rehoboth Beach. They also have started a CSA program. Now, I really, really love this graphic. This is for the 2016 Spring-Summer CSA. And you can actually see they illustrate some of the things that you might find in the box, from bell peppers, white potatoes, personalized size watermelons. Just really, really great way to show that off. And this is the spring box, and then you see this graphic illustrates their fall Delmarva CSA program, local goat milk soap, Brussels sprouts, carrots, cucumber, cameo apples. Just really, really cool way to show the kind of stuff that that you might get when you participate. But then look at what they've done as well. Jessica, CSA coordinator. So in addition to finding out and seeing in a beautiful way the stuff that you might get, you're also meeting the people and you're personalizing that experience. Now, in addition to that, they've got a very, very broad array of merchandise, and you can buy all of this branded merchandise directly off of their website. They also have done fruit baskets, and these are only available for local pickup, but it's a great opportunity for you to see. And you can see they have 3 different versions, and Delaware is a small state. They have 3 counties. So the Newcastle, the Kent, and the Sussex are our 3 counties. And it helps to kind of show different ways that you can package up and different ways that people can connect with the brand. They also have started up a food trailer and catering business. So in this little food trailer, they make apple cider donuts, which is a huge, huge draw for events and festivals. And it's a great way to take your brand out to the people. Of course, they illustrate their you-pick experience: blueberries, strawberries, peaches, apples, and pumpkins. They host and cater farm-to-table dinners throughout the region, and they have a whole farm-to-table dinner series right there at the orchards. They do a good job on their website of creating a comprehensive list of their harvest schedule, so you can see when crops are coming in, and you can really help to visualize the kind of things that they're growing right there on site. But then one of the coolest things that they've done is they have a whole page dedicated to classroom resources. And on this webpage, they've got videos and they have links to different downloadable PDFs that help people to integrate agritourism and agricultural information into their school curriculum, because as you can imagine, hosting school trips is a big business for them. So they've done a great job at creating that classroom materials. They also have information directly on their website talking about wholesale relationships that they can have. They talk about food safety, sustainable farming practices, and things like that. They even have thought of how to give directions for delivery drivers. So, it's a really, really great way to kind of connect the dots. They've got integrated map and directions, so you can see these 2 locations in the state, the one in Camden and the one in Dewey Beach, and then tell a little bit about their history as well. And as you can see, this is Charles Pfeiffer, who started it all in 1919 when he moved up from the Shenandoah, Virginia. And just this really, really great opportunity to connect people with the history. And by talking about this idea of how the farm has been around for almost 100 years, those are the kind of things that people really connect with. Now from that, I'm going to jump over to another example. This is Greenbrier Farms down in Greenville, South Carolina. Greenbrier is owned and run by Amy and Chad Bishop, husband and wife, and they've got a couple other staff members. And I remember one of the first interactions I had with this farm, believe it or not, was a wood-fired pizza. They started the farm up and they built an event venue with a brick oven pizzeria in it. And again, if you go to their website, you can see they feature quite a few things. Of course, they do a CSA as well. They grow livestock and a big, big focus on local meats. They have garden, both selling plants and herbs, and then they host a tremendous number of events and tours. I love on their website how they have this handwritten looking list of what's harvesting now. I think that's a great way to see the things that are fresh. Amy has always done a great job of going through and sharing recipes. So once again, it's one of those things where it's not just about getting product. It's not just about connecting with the farm. It's truly integrating into somebody's family, into their life. And I can guarantee you that first time that you have that amazing blueberry cobbler, you're going to be convinced that you have to get those blueberries again to make it all work. So being able to create that look and feel and creating that continuity and that relationship with your consumer. I just love the overall look and feel of their marketing materials. They've done a great job. And I think one of the things that Greenbrier does an amazing job with is partnerships. So here you can see they're partnering Greenbrier Farms, Founders Brewing Company, 17 Restaurant, Cafe, and Bar, and Bakery and Bistro. And, they're coming together to do a farm-to-table dinner. They did this really great event called Birds and Biscuits, which was focused at bird watchers. And it was an early morning where you went out and you did bird watching, and then you came in and you had some fresh made biscuits and food, and then went back out. Just kind of ingenious way to draw people in. They have a campfire social, and just really great. So again, think through the different ways that people might connect, farm to forge. And then every year they do a plant sale. And this plant sale is huge. They get thousands and thousands of folks out to their community or out to their farm. So as you take some of these examples and you start to move them forward, I think the big thing that you want to think about first is, how do we create value? When a consumer, when a visitor, when a customer comes in and they interact with your farm, they interact with your brand, how can you use that interaction to drive additional value, to drive a stronger relationship, and to turn that person into a loyal customer? Because that's what we really want to do. We want to convince people that Mississippi grown is better. We want to convince them that once they've seen where something is from, then that is worth a premium. You want to have people start to take that experience and go back to their local restaurants and start demanding locally grown produce, locally grown, locally raised meats. Those are the kind of byproducts that we're really shooting for. So being able to create that ongoing conversation. This is not about marketing. It is about relationships. So I hope that's helped, and I look forward to seeing you guys later on in the year and being able to dig in with some of the branding for your farms and for your orchards and for your businesses throughout Mississippi. So again, hope you learned a little something today, and I can't wait to meet you in person. Have a great day, guys, and keep branding.